Days ago, General Morris sent me to Joint Forces Command to be the L&O. The first charge I got was to set up and help integrate Joint CA and PSYOPs within the J3. The J3 looks like this. Here's JAVCOM. You can see where the J3 and J4 is located, pretty much along traditional lines. Specifically, what you may not know is in the J3, currently we have myself, and we have Lieutenant Colonel Russ Henderson as the CA-AO. We don't have a PSYOPs AO right now, but we've got Sergeant Major Saris, who's over in the J7. I don't have enough time to take you through the GFM process and Global Force Management, so what I'm going to try to do is give you the 8 basic steps to kind of give you a 1-minute summary, so strap in and hold on. First thing that happens is, a lot of us understand this, we just don't realize we understand it, is that commander downrange sends his requirements. It goes down to the geographic command. That commander then submits it to the joint staff. The important note is the joint staff validates that requirement. Once that requirement is validated, it comes to one of the joint force providers, and right now there's 2 of them. Joint Forces Command is the joint force provider for RC, CA, and PSYOPs. U.S. SOCOM is designated as a joint force provider for AC, CA, and PSYOPs. So once that validated requirement comes from the joint staff as a JSAP, Joint Staff Action Packet, it'll either go to SOCOM or come to JFCOM. When it comes to us, then what we do is we staff it out down to the COCOMs and the services to help develop courses of action to be able to make a recommended joint sourcing solution back to the joint staff. You make that recommendation back to the joint staff. That goes in the form of recommended courses of action for manning. For us, what's important is FORSCOM is who we talk to at JFCOM. JFCOM talks to FORSCOM, FORSCOM talks to USARC, USARC then talks down to KPOC. So by virtue of the fact that I'm the CG's L&O, I can reach right back directly to KPOC, but normally our conversation goes to FORSCOM. FORSCOM sends us back the recommended course of action or recommended joint sourcing solution to include any kind of risk data, include anecdotal evidence, amplifying data. In other words, what the impact would be if we source this, we don't source it against, say, FY08 or FY09 requirements. We then package that. We then send our requirement up to the joint staff. JFCOM only gets a recommendation for a recommended joint sourcing solution. The joint staff then takes that into the SecDef, and it's called the SDOB, Secretary of Defense book. They brief him, he makes his decision, it comes back out, SecDef signs it, it then becomes published the XORD, which then comes back down and goes back out to the command for execution. So that's the 8 simple steps. Here's our sourcing dilemma. We have to look at it from a linear perspective because we've got to find sourcing solutions for the entire FY. I'll go through some of the challenges that we had this past year because SecDef decided, probably for some political reasons, I don't know, I didn't have to be in the room that day, but we decided to do 2 sourcing solutions for FY08. If you also remember, we had the surge that came out rather quickly. And that caused us for a second time, or actually a third time, to look at the sourcing for FY08. And then when you look at the requirements that come out, you have the enduring rotational requirements that come out from the JTF commander, that come out through the GOCOMs. Those are the enduring requirements that we put sourcing to for the entire year. We then have emerging requirements, RFF, request for forces, that come out every day, every week, every month, from in theater, say for CENTCOM from General Petraeus, come down to CENTCOM, they get validated by Admiral Fallon, they come back up to the joint staff, they get validated, and they get sent to JFCOM for sourcing. So we have a dual track, and that's what this slide is showing you. We have the enduring, rotational, IRFs or FTNs that we source, and then at the same time we find that solution for the entire year. Then we have the emerging requirements that come out in between. Could be an agricultural development team, you know, that the National Guard is starting an initiative that may have 2 CA folks on it. It may be non-doctrinal. It may be an IO support cell if they want 2 CA folks along with PSYOPs folks to go into. So that's our challenge, is how do we take and find the sourcing solutions for the entire FY, and I'll show you some of the problems. Here's our issues. We talked about the split JFP. I will tell you from a joint staff perspective, there are already rumblings of it doesn't make any sense to split the force. That's all I'll say. We've talked about it several times, but from a joint forcing, providing, and sourcing perspective, they've got to go 2 places where prior to the split they only went 1. Second of all, I will tell you that the whole way up to SecDef level, we are seen as a persistent shortfall. It is sourced, and we are briefed as, along with MI, MP, a lot of other ones. The other challenge we have is, you know, about the 1 in 5 orphagen cycle, that is just a goal. Right now, we are somewhere between a 1-to-1, 1-to-2 between AC and RC for CA and PSYOPs. And through the next 2 FDUs, which Dennis Cahill is going to talk about, we're going to get good, but that doesn't help me find a joint sourcing solution, you know, at JFCOM for FY08 and FY09. I'll tell you what really killed us last year was when we got the new RC policy for 9 months, boots on the ground, which is basically a 12-month mode. But until we can get most of the the training done in the pre-mode status, what it causes me at JFCOM when I make that recommended joint forcing solution is we can basically look at somewhere between 9 months and 10 months boots on the ground. Well, why is that a challenge? Because now that forces me to find 2 joint forcing solutions, recommended solutions, for every FY, or basically 3 for every 24 months. So here's the bottom line. We're out of Schlitz. We don't have enough of Schlitz to even do 1 sourcing for the entire FY. And if you remember, in the last 18 to 24 months, we won the battle to have our soldiers deployed for 15 months so that we could have them on the ground for 12. Halfway through last year, policy changed. You can only have them on the ground for 9 months. Caused us at JFCOM to now have to find a second recommended joint sourcing solution. The next thing is we have a variation right now in mode policies across DoD. So if you remember the last slide where we got to take the enduring requirements on the top and the emerging requirements on the bottom, now we've got mini hurricanes going on because it's extremely complex, and here's where the art and science comes in, is because the AC for FY08 can do 15 months, 12 months. In FY09 it can only do 12 months. The Marine Corps is doing 7 months, I believe a battalion and below, unless it's like the PRT, the exception is they go for 12 months. The Air Force, I think, is doing 6 months, or the Navy's doing 6 months, and I think the Air Force is doing 4. The challenge is when we got to find a recommended joint sourcing solution, it's going to be joint. It's going to be AC and RC, and it's going to be spread across the entire compo. Now try to figure out when we put in the Marine Corps, the Navy, and the Air Force, active Army and Reserve Army, and you've got all those hurricanes churning around, but I've got to find a solution for the entire FY. Okay. Next thing is we've had a great success with volunteers. I will tell you right now, the only reason why we're meeting the joint requirements right now from a CA and PSYOPs perspective is because our great Americans in our units are volunteering for 2nd and 3rd rotation. But one of the other changes this year is you come back from Iraq or Afghanistan and you volunteer to go to HOA, guess what? That does not reset your BOB or dwell. So that's another change that we need to ensure that our soldiers know about. Next thing is we have a lot of AC and RC compatibility mismatches. MTOs, equipment. CA side, what is a CAT in the RC side? 4 individuals, 1 vehicle. On the AC side, 6 individuals, 2 vehicles. So when SOCOM, as the AC Joint Force provider, can't give a solution, comes back to Joint Forces Command, we go to FORCECOM. Guess what? Now the solution is you're going to get an RC solution based on capability, not boots on the ground. You're going to get a CA, CAT-A, RC, 2 in a vehicle. If it's a PSYOPs TPT, instead of 16 people on the AC side, on the RC you're getting 13. So that's one of the first kind of lines in the sand I've drawn and said we've got to get back to capabilities based versus boots on the ground. And the only small way I can do it for the CG down there is say, roger that. We're going to have to tell the joint staff that they're going to tell us that JFCOM and FORCECOM suck